Live from New Delhi, you're watching DD India Live, India's voice to the world. I'm Ramesh Ramachandran. Coming up in the next 30 minutes. Russia detains a suspect for the murder of its general who headed its nuclear, biological and chemical defense forces. The first commercial flight since the ouster of President Bashar al-Assad takes off from Damascus airport. Canada's Prime Minister Justin Trudeau acknowledges internal strife within his ruling Liberal Party. The opposition demands his resignation. And India's Ravichandran Ashwin retires from international cricket. Russia said on Wednesday that it had detained a citizen of Uzbekistan who had confessed to planting and detonating a bomb which killed Lieutenant General Igor Kirillov in Moscow on Tuesday, allegedly on the instructions of Ukraine's security service. Russia accused Ukraine's allies of approving war crimes by remaining silent on the killing of or expressing support for such attacks. The attack took place a day after President Vladimir Putin boasted of Russian troops' successes in Ukraine.
The Investigative Committee of Russia, in cooperation with the Russian Intelligence Service and the Ministry of Internal Affairs of Russia, detained a citizen of the Republic of Uzbekistan born in 1995 on suspicion of committing a terrorist act that killed Igor Kirillov and his assistant. The investigative actions are being carried out with the detainee. During the interrogation, he explained that he had been recruited by the Ukrainian Special Services. Following their instructions, he arrived in Moscow and received an improvised explosion device. He placed it on an electric scooter, which he parked at the entrance of the apartment building where Kirillov lived.
Russia's foreign ministry said that Moscow will raise the general's assassination at the United Nations Security Council on 20th of December.
Постоянное представительство России при ООН поднимет вопрос.
The permanent mission of Russia to the UN will raise the issue of the Committed Terrorist Act during the UN Security Council meeting on the supply of Western weapons to Ukraine, requested by Russia on December 20. We are confident that all the organizers and perpetrators of the murder of Igor Kirillov will be found, punished, whoever it may be, wherever they are.
The Kremlin on Wednesday said that the Russian intelligence services know who ordered the killing of the general. The Kremlin spokesperson Dmitry Peskov said that Ukraine is using the methods of terrorists.
It is now obvious who are the instigator, who are the organizers of these terrorist acts. It is reaffirmed that the Kyiv regime does not shy away from using terrorist methods. We clearly understand who our enemy is, what it is capable of, and this once again justifies our action during the special military operation.
Meanwhile, Russia's defense ministry said on Wednesday that its forces took control of the villages of Trudeaus and Stary Terny in eastern Ukraine. The Ukrainian Air Force, meanwhile, said that Russia launched 81 drones overnight, of which 30 imitator drones did not reach their targets and 51 were shot down. Germany's Chancellor Olaf Scholz lost a vote of confidence in Parliament, which paves the way for early elections in February. Now, this is something very rare in German politics. Only the sixth time a vote of confidence is called since the end of the Second World War. And it's not only Germany going through turbulent political times in Europe, also France is facing a political crisis. DW's Thomas Sparrow joins us from Berlin for more. Thomas, Olaf Scholz lost his trust vote. Why did that happen and what comes next?
It may seem strange to you, but actually Chancellor Olaf Scholz actually wanted to lose that confidence vote, not win it. And the reason behind that is that he sees this as the formal way to end his government coalition, which had collapsed in November after the three parties that formed that coalition had not managed to come to an agreement on economic terms, on budgetary terms. And secondly, Scholz sees this as a way in which he could pave the way for those elections that are now going to take place in February. What comes next is, on the one hand, a political campaign marked by this very short period of time, and also marked by the winter and by the Christmas period, which is rather untypical for German standards because normally federal elections take place in September. The next steps are for the German president, Frank-Walter Steinmeier, who is the head of state, to dissolve parliament and officially stress that those elections will indeed take place on February 23rd.
Thomas, what are the main topics of this political campaign?
There's no doubt that the main topic of this political campaign is the economy, the German economy, which is in a rather bad state, and which, in fact, as I stress, was the main cause for the dissolution of the government coalition. Germans are worried, according to a survey this month. In fact, nearly half of Germans stress that they're concerned that they won't be able to pay their bills or they will have economic problems in old age. And this is something that clearly is seen by political parties that are now positioning themselves when it comes to options on how to improve Germany's economy. A second element, which is particularly important, is foreign policy, and in this case, how Germany will position itself after January 20th, when Donald Trump comes to the White House. There are concerns about Donald Trump's policies on the one hand towards Ukraine, on the other hand, some of his protectionistic policies, which could certainly affect Germany's exporting rules and exporting policies. This is extremely important for Germany's overall economic output. So these are two topics that are undoubtedly at the top of the political agenda now and being discussed by the main political parties.
And considering that France is also in crisis, what does this mean for the European Union? After all, Germany and France have been considered the motor of the EU.
And just imagine when this motor of the EU does not work properly. This obviously has implications for the EU as a whole. On the one hand, when it comes to implementing policies that are important for the 27-member bloc, but also when it comes to the overall policies towards other regions of the world, when it comes to India, when it comes to Africa, when it comes to Latin America. If Germany and France do not manage to work together, and if Germany and France are both looking inward instead of focusing on those very important foreign policy aspects, this will ultimately affect how the EU performs on a global stage. The question now is whether other countries in the bloc, for example, Poland or other countries in Eastern Europe, will step up as EU leaders, or whether Germany and France, despite these political crises, will manage to really work together when it comes to the overall policies that are so important for the 27 bloc.
Thomas, thank you. Thomas Sparrow reporting there from Berlin. Right, shifting focus to West Asia now. In Syria, the Damascus International Airport reopened on Wednesday. The first flight since the ouster of President Bashar al-Assad took off for Aleppo. 43 people, including journalists, were on board the flight. At the terminal, the new flag replaced the one linked to Assad's era. Assad fled Syria as a lightning rebel offensive launched on 27th November wrested city after city from his control. His army abandoned Damascus airport on 8th December, and until Wednesday, no flights had taken off or landed. Canada's Prime Minister Justin Trudeau is fighting for political survival. He's acknowledged internal strife within his ruling Liberal Party as he is under intense pressure to step down, also from abroad. Adding to his woes, opposition parties from across the political spectrum have intensified demands for his resignation. This renewed push could further embolden detractors within his own party, putting his leadership on an even shakier ground. DD India's Akhilesh Suman reports.
For Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, Tuesday turned into another tough day as Parliament echoed with sharp accusations from an energized opposition. Lawmakers from across the opposition's political spectrum attacked his administration, blaming him for policy failures and calling for his resignation.
Canada is a serious G7 NATO partner staring down the threat of 25% tariffs. We deserve a strong leader with a new mandate. Why not let Canadians decide by calling a carbon tax election?
The Prime Minister has lost the confidence of Canadians, lost the confidence of many of his MPs, acknowledged that he doesn't have a mandate to continue to govern, and call a carbon tax election.
While Trudeau is working hard to keep his party and the government steady, growing dissent within his party adds to his mounting challenges. Sensing the rising political stakes, newly appointed Finance Minister Dominic LeBlanc came to the government's defense. He assured Parliament that Prime Minister Trudeau is making determined efforts to address Canada's economic and diplomatic challenges.
Mr. Speaker, the fall economic statement speaks to growth in the Canadian economy. It speaks to supporting Canadians with serious affordability challenges. And Mr. Speaker, we haven't finished supporting Canadians, something the Conservatives aren't interested in doing.
Defending the government further, House Leader Karen Gold reminded the Parliament that the government has already survived a confidence vote last week. She emphasized that the administration's priority is tackling the economic fallout and managing US-Canada relations amid Trump's aggressive trade policies.
Mr. Speaker, this House voted in confidence of this government just last week on multiple occasions. Mr. Speaker, we have important work to do on behalf of Canadians. We have a very important relationship to manage with the United States at a pivotal time.
In response to Trump's aggressive stance on border security and trade, Trudeau announced a $1.3 billion Canadian plan to bolster Canada's border security over the next 6 years to stop illegal immigration into USA. The plan includes deploying drones, surveillance towers, helicopters, and hiring more border agents to enhance US-Canada border security, causing huge bearing on Canada's exchequer.
Like most families, sometimes we have fights around the holidays. But of course, like most families, we find our way through it.
Insiders say former Finance Minister Chrystia Freeland has resigned after clashing with Trudeau over handling US President-elect Donald Trump's threat of imposing 25% tariffs on Canadian imports. Freeland advocated for tighter fiscal controls, while Trudeau insisted on boosting financial aid for wooing public sentiment, along with strengthening border security. However, questions remain about how both priorities will be funded at a time when Canada's economy is grappling with severe challenges. Akhilesh Suman's report for DD India.
Donald Trump has filed a lawsuit against the Des Moines Register newspaper and his former top pollster the day after he stepped up his legal threats against news outlets. The lawsuit seeks unspecified damages and an order barring the newspaper from engaging in ongoing deceptive and misleading acts and practices related to polling. A representative of the newspaper said the company stands by its reporting and believes the lawsuit is without merit. And still to come on DD India Live. Gaza ceasefire talks make progress. And the Netherlands fines Netflix $5 million over its handling of subscribers' personal data.
This week on Defense Dynamics, we will talk about the exercise which exposed J-60's capabilities, nullifying tall theoretical claims of the Chinese. We'll tell you why newly commissioned INS Tushil underscores strong India-Russia strategic ties and strong friendship apart from building a strong blue water navy. We will also discuss Russian fighter Su-57, which has been in news and creating a buzz. All this and much more on Defense Dynamics every Wednesday at 8 PM IST only on DD India.
You're watching DD India Live. I'm Ramesh Ramachandran. India and China held the Special Representatives Dialogue on the boundary question in Beijing on Wednesday. Ajit Doval, India's National Security Advisor and Special Representative on the India-China boundary question during the 23rd meeting of the Special Representatives, met with its Chinese counterpart and Minister of Foreign Affairs of China, Wang Yi, in Beijing. Key topics on the agenda included the implementation of the 21st October Disengagement Agreement and the restoration of patrolling rights in eastern Ladakh. Both sides are also exploring a long-term resolution to the boundary dispute. US lawmakers bring a bill to curb Chinese impact in the country's fentanyl crisis. US authorities have proposed 3 bills that would put in place measures to set up a special task force to curb narcotics trafficking and bring in new sanctions on Chinese entities not following formal entry channels. One of the bills proposed to hold China's ruling Communist Party accountable for a direct role in the crisis and cut off Chinese companies from the US banking system for arranging illicit synthetic narcotics. The bill is scheduled to be put again after the new government takes charge in January next year. An agreement between Israel and Gaza for putting an end to 14-month-old conflict and release of hostages could be signed in the coming days as talks in Cairo make progress. The US, joined by mediators from Egypt and Qatar, are making intensive efforts to advance the talks before President Joe Biden leaves office next month. US spy agency CIA chief William Burns, a key US negotiator, is set to meet Qatar's Prime Minister Sheikh Mohammed bin Abdul Rahman Al Thani in Doha on Wednesday for bridging remaining gaps between Israel and Hamas. Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu arrived at the Tel Aviv District Court on Wednesday for his long-running corruption trial for the second time this week. Netanyahu was ordered to testify 3 times a week regarding a 2019 indictment in 3 cases involving gifts from millionaire friends and allegedly seeking regulatory favors for media tycoons in return for favorable news coverage. The Prime Minister has denied any wrongdoing and has pleaded not guilty. Netanyahu is Israel's first sitting Prime Minister to be charged with a crime. India's External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar on Wednesday held a phone conversation with his Israeli counterpart Gideon Sa'ar. Taking to microblogging site X, Minister Jaishankar said, "Appreciate his briefing on the ongoing developments in the region." The minister said that the 2 leaders discussed ways to strengthen India-Israel relations and that he looks forward to meeting him in person. The Bangladesh High Court has acquitted former State Minister for Home Affairs Lutfuzzama Babar and 5 others who were sentenced to death in the 10-truck arms haul case in Chattogram. The court also commuted the death sentence of 6 convicts to 10 years imprisonment in the case. Indian separatist outfit United Liberation Front of Assam's chief Paresh Barua, another death row convict, had his sentence reduced to life imprisonment. The 10-truck arms haul case is the largest arms smuggling incident in the history of Bangladesh. Investigators believe the delivery was intended for the Alpha. 3 people were killed, over 100 injured in a violent clash between 2 groups in Bangladesh over the control of Biswa Ijtema ground on Wednesday. Authorities have tightened the security by deploying border guard Bangladesh's forces in and around the Ijtema ground to prevent any unfavorable incidents. The injured were rushed to hospital. The clash erupted between the followers of Tablighi Jamaat's Zubair Ahmed and supporters of Saad Kandalvi of India over occupying the Biswa Ijtema field. This comes after the Zubair Ahmed faction announced prevention of Saad Kandalvi's entry into Bangladesh. Tensions between the 2 groups have been brewing ever since the announcement was made. Right now, take a look at what else is making news around the world. After the disastrous aftermath of Cyclone Chido in Mayotte, hospitals are overwhelmed, prompting health authorities to seek help from the Reunion Islands. Authorities from Reunion's regional health agency confirmed receiving people in need of emergency medical aid. So far, 22 cyclone-related deaths are confirmed from official records. Ottavia Piana, a cave explorer, was successfully rescued on Wednesday after getting trapped in a cave in northern Italy for 4 days. Rescue teams airlifted her to Bergamo Hospital for further evaluation and treatment after she sustained multiple injuries. Dutch authorities have fined Netflix $5 million over the handling of subscribers' personal data. Netflix did not provide customers with enough information about what the company does with their personal data between 2018 and 2020. The authorities said that the information that Netflix did provide was not clear in some cases. UK inflation rose to an 8-month high in November, which is above the Bank of England's target rate for the month. As per the Office for National Statistics, the Consumer Price Index has increased 2.6% annually in November from 2.3% in October. An Indian Navy warship, INS Nirdeshak, was commissioned at the Naval Dockyard in Visakhapatnam on Wednesday in the presence of Minister of State for Defence Sanjay Seth. The ship boasts of over 80% indigenous content, reaffirming India's expertise in ship design and construction and the Indian Navy's trust in self-reliance. The 110-meter-long vessel, with a displacement of approximately 3,800 tons, is powered by 2 diesel engines and is equipped with state-of-the-art hydrographic and oceanographic survey equipment. To sports news now. The third test between Australia and India ended in a draw on Wednesday after play was abandoned because of rain following tea on day 5 in Brisbane. India were 8 for no loss in their second innings, needing 267 for victory when bad light halted play and brought tea early. The match was unable to resume after the break. Australia's hopes of forcing a result were always hostage to the weather, but their chances of victory were already wafer thin, given their attack was a man down. Pace stalwart Josh Hazlewood was out of action after a calf injury. Travis Head was named player of the match after scoring 152 in Australia's first innings. The 5-test series is level 1-all. The fourth test starts at Melbourne on 26th December. Indian cricketer Ravichandran Ashwin has retired from international cricket following the third test of the Doordarshan series against Australia in Brisbane. Ashwin retires as one of India's all-time greats, having leaving behind a legacy of remarkable achievements. An era has come to an end in international cricket, not just Indian cricket.
India's spin spearhead Ravichandran Ashwin announced his retirement from international cricket in all formats at the end of the third test of the Doordarshan Trophy series in Brisbane. The 38-year-old told the reporters at Gaba that it is going to be his last day playing for India.
This will be my last day as an Indian cricketer in all formats as at the international level. I do feel there's a bit of punch left in me as a cricketer, but I would like to expose and probably showcase that in club level cricket.
Indian cricketer Virat Kohli extended his wishes in a tweet. He said, "I have enjoyed every bit of the journey with you, Ash. Your skill and match-winning contributions to Indian cricket are second to none, and you'll always be remembered as a legend of Indian cricket." Ashwin ends his test cricket at a remarkable note. He is India's second highest wicket taker in the format, with 537 wickets from 106 tests, only behind Anil Kumble, who finished with 619 wickets from 132 tests. India's Sports Minister Dr. Mansukh Mandavia also lauded Ashwin in a tweet for leaving an indelible mark on Indian cricket. He called him one of the greatest off-spinners of all time. From those match-winning spells to incredible test hundreds, you have left an indelible mark on Indian cricket and inspired countless youngsters. Meanwhile, ICC Chairman Jay Shah said Ashwin's international career is something to be proud of. He said, "One of BCCI's greatest match winners, a magician with the ball and an astute thinker of the game." Vice President of the Indian Cricket Board Rajiv Shukla also praised Ashwin for his exceptional contribution in the game.
BCCI also appreciates it and always salute to his contribution to the world cricket as well as Indian cricket, and particularly domestic cricket also. He's a great bowler. He has got immense potential as far as game is concerned. So I wish him best for his future endeavours.
In addition to his wickets, Ashwin also scored 3,503 test runs with 6 hundreds and 14 50s, making him one of the 11 all-rounders with more than 3,000 runs and 300 wickets. He also won a record 11 Player of the Series awards levelled with Muthaiya Muralidharan. Priya Yadav for DD India.
Macau's Panda family brings delights to visitors at the Siak Pai Van Park. Known as Happy Family, the family of 4 pandas is one of the most famous pandas in Macau. Visitors throng the park in large numbers to get a glimpse of the pandas. The pandas are a gift to Macau from the Sichuan province of China and have been here since 2015. India's public broadcaster Prasar Bharati has launched an OTT platform called Waves. Waves provides complete infotainment ecosystem to digital media and OTT audiences. If you want great content for free, then download Waves now. That's all for this edition of DD India Live. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Ramesh Ramachandran. All of us here in New Delhi. Thanks for watching DD India Live.